Sideline Sedo here, ready to bring you another tier list. Today I'm looking at strikers for the 23-24 Premier League season. Gonna rank them, gonna give my opinions on them, provide some stats and context for each player, and as always, just kind of give a general idea of my thoughts on players throughout the league. As always, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, like the video if you end up enjoying, and comment down below who you would rank where you would have certain players in the tier list, and effectively, what your tier list would be if you so choose. As always, the link for this tier list will be in the description, but it might have a few players missing. I added a bunch myself. I think 18 or so I added to kind of make a more thorough list, but shout out to the person who made this list at IGCLU. And if you are wondering why Benny Traore has his own tier, it's because he's not currently even a player at Leeds. He's on loan in Ligue 1. I forget for who, but he's not currently playing for him. So he was in this tier list as their sole striker for Sheffield United, and I felt that was kind of just weird. So I chose not to include him in the rankings because I don't know anything about him, basically. Starting with Alexander Isak. And Alexander Isak, he's a player who gets some kind of weird bits of slander online, I feel like sometimes. Well, all in all, I rate him. He's got 9 goals in 15 matches. He's started 12 of those matches. He's not maybe the most kind of interplay kind of player, someone that's going to link up and get assists for you, but he's a really great finisher. He's really good at controlling the ball, great in the box. I'm going to put him at top of 8 tier for now. If we need to round out S tier, because I like to keep my tier list balanced, I'm going to move him up. But if he doesn't have to get moved up, this feels pretty fair. Next up is Cameron Archer. He's on the kind of like opposite side of things in the case that, he's made this move to Sheffield United, who isn't necessarily the most creative side. You're not going to get the most service. He hasn't really scored a ton for them realistically across, the start of the season. And Brent Burton Diaz has come in on loan now, and he's only scored three goals really. It's been 18 matches. He's got to go into D tier. Sorry, Cameron Archer. He is 22, so he's at that age where he's got to start kind of hitting the ground running, getting some more contributions, and getting more prolific in front of goal, or else he's not going to be in the Premier League, let's be honest, for much longer, if that's the case, in matches and seasons to come. Next up is a player who has been incredible this season. Incredible is an understatement. There's a lack of words that can describe how good Ollie Watkins has been this year. 9 goals, 8 assists, 20 appearances. Aston Villa's in second. They're hunting down a potential title race. They're hunting down a top 4 race. Unai Emery has been brilliant for them. Has really become a total transformative manager for that club. You're going to have to, me at least, I'm going to have to put him up there. S tier. Incredible season for him, and probably one of the first names on the England team sheet, I would imagine. Obviously, Kane will be up there, or in the squad list at least. He's going to Euro 2024 for sure. But beyond Ollie Watkins, we have Crystal Palace striker Jean-Phillipe Mateta, and Mateta hasn't really set the world ablaze this season. 2 goals, 3 assists, and 17 appearances. And, he started 7 of them. I mean, I'm going to have to say, it's better than Cameron Archer for now. He'll be low C tier if I need to bump him down. He's gonna have to go into D tier. But at least he's getting some assists, even though he's not scoring a ton. It's still an impact for Crystal Palace, and as for a team like them, you're going to need as many goals and assists as possible. Next up is Michail Antonio, and Michail Antonio, he's got a knee injury, I think, that he's still kind of working through, but even still, I don't think he's really performed to the best of his abilities this season. He's got 2 goals, 2 assists, and 12 appearances. He started 11 of those appearances. So it's not like while he was playing, he was only coming off the bench, which is something you can maybe say for Mateta. He hasn't really started a ton. So, you know, maybe that's why he's not scoring and assisting as much. But Antonio, I think, I don't know, low C tier feels fair because I feel like 4 goal contributions, 2 of them being assists, a bit more kind of impactful on your team than just 3 goals, you know. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like Antonio, even with the knee injury, he's a solid player, but I don't know, he's had a weird season. He's been calling out Liverpool fans. He's 33. He's got the podcast now. God knows what he's going to get on up to. Hopefully he can, for his sake, continue playing a bit more, but it seems like he's going the media lane. So we'll see how that goes on. But next is Eddie Nketiah. And Eddie Nketiah is a player who, honestly, 5 goals and an assist across 19 matches, starting 10 of them in the Premier League. I don't know. I feel like C tier is maybe fair. Honestly, Antonio, sorry, but you're going into D tier, mate. High D. Like, that's where you're going to have to be. But Nketiah, I mean, 5 goals and an assist. Didn't he score a ton of them in, like, one match? I want to see. Where are these goals coming from for Eddie Nketiah in the Premier League, at least? Yeah, he had the hat trick against Sheffield United. I'm going to have to put him in D tier too. I mean, you know, a hat trick against Sheffield United, contextually speaking, in a 5-0 win, is it at home too? Yeah, at home, like, it really doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things. I mean, it's a win. You know, it's 3 goals for your goal difference, but being pristinely average outside of that, only getting 1 assist, and then, you know, not like a goal against Nottingham Forest on opening day, and then a goal against Fulham in August. I mean, he hasn't scored since October. So, like, yeah, no, he's got to be in D tier. I'm sorry, Eddie Nketiah, but kind of rough there. Next up is Dominic Solanke from Bournemouth. And, I mean, hey, Solanke's got 12 goals and assists. Of those 12 goals, only 1's a penalty. He is hunting down the Golden Boot alongside Haaland, alongside Salah. He's towards the top of that list, and he's been a fantastic player for Bournemouth. Bournemouth, you know, they're in pretty solid form, all things considered. Some people predicted they'd get relegated. I don't know if I did. I can't even remember off the top of my head now, but 12th place for them as it stands. Solanke has been a fantastic part of that. 12 goals and an assist. I mean, as far as this season goes, he's got to go. I think he's got to go into S tier as well. I mean, he's one of the most important strikers to his side, I'd say, in the league right now. And yeah, I think that's pretty fair, all things considered. Danny Ings. Man, this one's going to hurt because Danny Ings as a player, you know, I didn't mind him while he was at Liverpool just because, you know, you could always see that there was a player in there, but now his body's catching up to him. He's not his best. He's got 0 goals, 0 assists in 10 matches. That's the bottom of D. That's just got to be it, you know. So sorry, Danny Ings, but, you know, how old is he now? 31? Oof. I mean, that's a pretty rough 31 for him, you know, if his body's already breaking down this early. But, you know, he has had a fairly decent career, all things considered. I mean, yeah, it's been okay, you know. Specifically, those Southampton years were fantastic. 38 goals, 75 appearances. And then Burnley wasn't too bad either. But Liverpool and every other club really didn't work out. But honestly, hopefully he could. I'd love to see him have a comeback story, but he's got to be low D. Next up is another kind of more seasoned veteran in the Premier League this time round, and that man is that man Welbs, Danny Welbeck. 2 goals, 12 assists, or no, whoa, that was insane. 2 goals, 12 matches, 0 assists, 2 contributions, both of which are goals. I got ahead of myself there with Danny Welbeck. Imagine he had that kind of season. He'd be like prime, like, I don't even know, just total creator. But yeah, 2 goals. He's gonna have to be there, sadly, towards the bottom of the list. Not much else to add. He's, I think, 33 now, Danny Welbeck. So it's like, you know, he's at that point where he's looking to retire soon enough. But hopefully he can get a few more goals under his belt before that time has to come. Next up is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. 16 matches, 3 goals. I mean, D tier is turning really, really crazy really quick. And I mean, based on the precedent I've set, he's going to have to be D tier too. So, like, I hate to say it. Oh, he's also been suspended. He got suspended, but wasn't that the weird red card, or was it just a dumb red card by him? I can't remember. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, 64 goals and 229 appearances for Everton across the course of his career. Not too bad. He's 26 now, though. Come on. Like, you got to be scoring more. I know he's had his issues with injury, but starting 13 matches, playing 1,000 minutes, and only having 3 goals to show for it. I know Everton hasn't necessarily been the most creative side over the last few seasons, but I don't know. I think he should be better. And I think this tier list right now looks where it's really extreme, you know, so make sure to comment down below thoughts on these players, because I feel like I'm working on both ends of the spectrum of quality here for who I have ranked thus far. And as always, if you're new, consider subscribing and like if you're enjoying the video. Moving forward with Diogo Jota. And Jota is a player who's also been out for quite a while. You know, he's had some injuries. He's now back with the side. And he's going to be filling in the absence of Mohamed Salah. So his performance throughout this season, I would say, lends a lot of, you know, kind of weight into how Liverpool might be performing. And he's played 14 matches, gotten 5 goals and an assist, but he's only started 8. So he's gotten 672 minutes and he's got 6 contributions. So that's almost like, yeah, that's like a goal contribution every 100 minutes. Just a little over a goal or just a little under a goal contribution a game, but still really impressive stuff from Jota. His per 90 stats are off the charts too. I think he's got to be 8 tier as well. I think he's the better player than ISAK, honestly. And I know his stats might not show it right now, but trust me, once the season kind of continues for the second half, and Jota will probably feature more, I would imagine, because, you know, he was out injured for a period of time as well. Yeah, I think he's really gonna tear it up. So moving forward to our next player, Elijah Adebayo from Luton Town. Adebayo is a player who, you know, some people might not necessarily be familiar with. They might not particularly be sure of how great of a player he is, but I think he's honestly fairly talented. I mean, he's only started 9 matches. He's gotten 5 goals, pretty big goals for Luton as well. He's got 37 goals in 131 games, but I'd hate to put him in a D tier, but honestly, like, there's like a lot of great players coming in towards the end of the list. I don't know if I'd say he's slightly worse than NKETIAH, but probably better than Calvert-Lewin, because, I mean, scoring 5 goals in that Luton side compared to him scoring 3 at Everton, I feel like that's pretty fair. Do I move up Antonio? I don't think so. I don't know. Next up is EDOUARD at Crystal Palace. EDOUARD, as a player, you know, he's got 6 goals, 15 matches. I hate to put him slightly ahead of Mateta, but I think he's probably the better striker. Mateta's slightly better creatively, I think. And I know that they're right there, but I do think they're kind of fairly interchangeable in terms of quality. And with the amount of starts that both of them get, I mean, Edouard started 15 matches and played 15 matches, and Mateta's clearly the backup more often than not. Sometimes I think both of them might start. He's only started 7 compared to the 15 that Edouard has, but I do think Mateta as a player could become better than Edouard, but I don't know. What's the age difference? 25, 26? They're both French. I mean, it's just kind of, I don't know. I feel like they're just not really, neither of them have improved over the last few seasons. I mean, Edouard's got 20 goals in 85 appearances. I mean, Edouard's probably scoring at a higher rate over the course of his career. Yeah, 12 and 17. All right. Yeah, that seems fair. Next up is Lyle Foster at Burnley. Lyle Foster. Let's see his stats real quick. 4 goals, 3 assists, 11 matches. Okay. That's impressive. Especially in a Burnley side. Let's see where these goals came from. He scored in, is this the loss? Yeah, he scored in the loss to Aston Villa. He scored in the win, or assisted in the win against Fulham. Assisted against Chelsea. Scored against Luton. Assisted and got sent off against Nottingham Forest. Scored in August. I mean, he had a period of time, I think during November possibly, where he was out for personal reasons, if I'm not mistaken. But 4 goals, 3 assists is not a bad return. He's only 23. He's 6'1". How many goals has he scored generally? I mean, he's a fairly young player still in terms of, his exposure. He hasn't really played a ton of matches in his career across, since 2017, really. But 4 goals, 3 assists, I'll put him in at B tier. Next up is TAIWO AWONIYI. TAIWO, let's see. His stats for this season, if I'm not mistaken, are pretty decent. He's also out until late February with an injury, but he's got 4 goals and 2 assists in 10 matches. Honestly, I mean, A tier? Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I mean, that's an incredible return. And the fact that he's providing assists, he's shown to be not just entirely one-dimensional and be like just a target man or something. He's got pace, he's got strength, he could get assists. And to get 6 contributions in 10 matches is pretty good. You can't hate on that whatsoever. Next up is Callum Wilson, the second Newcastle striker to be ranked on this tier list. And he is also out with an injury, a calf injury, until late January 2024. 7 goals and assists in 14 matches. I feel like he gets some disrespect as well. All in all, would I put him in at A tier? Would I put him on this plane? Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he was pretty great at Bournemouth. He's doing pretty good this season too. I'd put him behind TAIWO though, because I think TAIWO is the better player overall. But yeah, I think A tier is fair. He might get moved down into B if A tier becomes a little crowded. Next up is Neal Maupay, and I know he's got the Everton kit on, but he's with Brentford this season. You might not even know that he's with Brentford, to be quite honest. You might have thought he still was at Everton, but no, he's back at Brentford. 2 goals, 3 assists, 16 matches. I mean, how are these matches looking? 7 starts. I mean, his per 90 stats aren't too awful, but I mean, what does he provide really? When did these goals come? I mean, he scored the equalizer against, or was it to take the lead? Well, he took the lead against Wolves for Brentford. Then he scored a match against Luton, assist against Chelsea, assist against Burnley, goal against West Ham. Yeah, I mean, Maupay, I mean, he's been okay, I guess. A little more consistent than the likes of the rest. But yeah. Next up, what do you need to say about Kai Havertz? 4 goals and assists, 19 matches. Big signing. Probably C tier. Not really what Arsenal need. You might say, oh, he's a midfielder. Oh, he's an attacking mid. What is he? Sometimes he's up top. Sometimes he's on the wing. Kai Havertz doesn't impress me. He doesn't move me. I don't think he moves many Arsenal fans at the moment. I don't think he moved Chelsea fans like that very much. He's kind of an anomaly of a player. I don't think he's been that great. And you would expect more out of him, right? At least assist-wise, right? Like 4 goals, whatever. If he had like 4 goals, 4 assists, you're like, okay, like that's a bit more understandable maybe. 4 goals and assist. I mean, he's not this bad. He's not as bad as, say, Maupay or EDOUARD. Would I take Lyle Foster over him? Probably. Do I put him in at low B? Nah. Only if I need to. He'll be at the top of C. Next up is Luton Town striker Carlton Morris. Carlton Morris, I think he's injured at the moment too. Tons of injuries at the moment. Nope, he's fit. But he's got 3 goals, 2 assists, 19 matches. He's their penalty taker, I think, too. Which, I mean, you can chalk up to maybe like, oh, it doesn't count as much. When's the last time he scored or assisted? Let's see. Last assist, November 25th, 2023. Last goal for Carlton Morris was September 30th? Mate. All right. Yeah, that justifies a D tier. Sorry, bro. D tier is stacked. Lots of average players here. Next up is Cody Gakpo. Cody Gakpo plays for, my favorite club, Liverpool. He's going to feature a lot more now with Salah out at AFCON. A lot of the forwards will, naturally. 3 goals and an assist. I mean, it's not the best return, but, I mean, Gakpo's per 90 stats, he's really good at defending from the front. He's very good at, his build-up play. He's not necessarily clicked entirely at Liverpool. I'm putting him in at B tier. He's had a decent start. 15 goals and 52 matches isn't the most prolific return, but he'll pop in with an assist every now and then, and he's really good at playing that kind of Firmino role, or at least providing that kind of those kind of abilities that Firmino provided to, the squad in terms of being able to get them to kind of link up a bit more, being nice with the 1-2s and all that. His return hasn't been great, but if you look at how many matches he started, he's only started 9. So honestly, I really rate Cody Gakpo, and I know that for the rest of the season, he's probably going to ball out. He scored a lot in the cup games for Liverpool as well. which is something that you could consider. But he's he's honestly a fantastic player in my opinion. I don't think he's quite at the level to say as a striker be at A tier. I think he provides way more to a side than say Callum Wilson and probably TAIWO. ISAK, it's debatable. ISAK is the focal point for Newcastle, and as a result, and with the way that they play, and you could see it, he is tremendously impactful. I think Gakpo's a really, really tidy player. I just think it hasn't necessarily worked yet for him at Liverpool, but he's starting to settle in. I don't have any doubts that Gakpo will really hit the ground running over the next year. But yeah, I think B tier for now, based on his performance this season, is fair. And I don't want to just stuff the top tiers with Liverpool players because I'm a Liverpool fan. That seems disingenuous at best. Next up is Beto signing for Everton. A goal in 15 matches. I mean, mate, D tier. D tier, right? Like, probably right there. That's awful. That's like straight up daylight robbery. I mean, he's only started 5. But either way, that's not impressive. I don't really want to harp on a single goal for a player. So moving forward to Brighton forward, João Pedro. João Pedro, 7 goals, 2 assists, 20 matches. I mean, mate, I'm not going to put him in at A tier. I'll put him in at B tier. Doesn't he take penalties? He's taken 4 penalties, yeah, and he scored them all, it seems. So, honestly, I think this is a fair ranking. I think in terms of contributions, obviously, João Pedro and Lyle Foster, they both have more overall goal contributions than Gakpo, but Gakpo is genuinely the better player. Like, if you'd have any number or any of these 3, you're probably taking Gakpo. It's just that he hasn't necessarily been exactly the one that's getting the assist or scoring every time in the Premier League. Might change for the second half season for Gakpo, but these guys have been great. I don't want to take anything away from how well they've been playing for their sides. João Pedro in particular has been really exciting at Brighton, and I think Lyle Foster is really underrated as well. Next up is Ivan Toney, and this one I'm going to have to kind of rank based on memory in terms of how he was last time he played. But I felt like, only having Mbeumo would feel, I mean, I am ranking players for the 23-24 season, but Toney might still end up playing. He might sign for a side like a Chelsea or an Arsenal. And if he does, he's going to bag in goals. So for this tier list, based on how Toney was when he last had played for Brentford, I'm going to put him in at... Yeah, he's suspended for 16 more matches. So he won't be there until like literally the end of the season, no? That's crazy. He's basically out. Let's see how he performed in the 22-23 season. I mean, 20 goals, 46. Yeah, that's got to be pretty high up there. I think he's a better forward than ISAK, personally. I mean, at this point in time, he's not really playing, so I'll put him below him. I think ISAK has a higher ceiling than Toney, but at the end of the day, yeah, I feel like this is fair. In terms of quality, Toney is absolutely A tier, and on his day, if he really hit a crazy run of form, would probably be up in the S tier contention as well. Chris Wood playing for Nottingham Forest, 7 goals and an assist in 18 matches. He's shown up when TAIWO AWONIYI is gone. But let's be honest, this is, Chris Wood, he had his moment at Burnley. Those 5 years were fantastic, I would imagine, for him. Then he kind of didn't do too well at Newcastle. Went to Nottingham Forest and a weird loan that didn't kind of seem like it was going well. But then now he's back here and he scored 7 goals in a few matches. I mean, he's got the hat trick against Newcastle United, then the goal against Bournemouth and the assist, and then a brace against Luton. Is that all he did? I mean, he scored against Sheffield in August too. So, I mean, he's not like a bad player whatsoever. And honestly, this might upset some people, but I think he's like a low B tier striker. Like what he provides for you in a side is is legitimately more than what Kai Havertz seems to provide. Kai, fantastic, at passing the ball around, but contribution wise, getting goals is what you need. And as a striker, Kai Havertz doesn't really do that too much. You could say he might play midfield sometimes. No, it doesn't work out even in midfield for Kai Havertz, but at least for Chris Wood, he's seemingly slapping in goals. But do I want him B tier? That feels too nice. I'm gonna put him high C tier ahead of everybody just based on his form. I think that feels fair. Next up is Wolves forward Matheus Cunha. 6 goals, 5 assists, 20 matches. I mean, that's got to be S tier, I think. In terms of how he's performed this season, fantastic. Really talismanic performance from at Wolves. They're in 11th. They're level on points with Chelsea. He's been a huge part of that, and honestly, I think it deserves its flowers to say, or he deserves his flowers in the fact that he's been a revelation of a signing. And, as much as I like Jota, as much as I like Gakpo, their form just hasn't been as great this season compared to basically everybody else above them. Yeah. But next is Anthony Martial. Martial, I mean, he might even be out the door soon. He's been, quote, ill since December 10th. He hasn't featured in about a month. He's got a goal in 13 matches. He's C tier or D tier. I'm going to move somebody up to C tier because I'll move Eddie NKETIAH to low C tier. And maybe Adebayo? Maybe Adebayo? Let's see Adebayo's stats. He's at Luton. I accidentally was 5 goals. Yeah, he's gonna be in at C tier as well. Martial though, I'll probably put Michail Antonio in at C tier also. Next up, Erling Haaland. He's straight at the bottom of D tier. I'm kidding. He's obviously S tier. Let me figure out where I want to rank him in terms of form this season. I mean, he's been the best, like by and far the best, I guess, goal contributor in terms of just like output this season. He's also out right now with an injury. 14 goals, 4 assists in 15 matches. Yeah, I mean, duh. He's the best striker. There's not really much else to say about it. He's a beast of a forward. Sometimes, he gets some criticism for lacking some ability and build-up. But even still, getting 4 assists across, 15 matches as, a tall, kind of ginormous striker like him, you take those. Next up is Evan Ferguson at Brighton. Evan Ferguson. He has kind of had a weird season. 6 goals in 18 matches, 3 of which coming in a hat trick throughout the course of the season. earlier on. I mean, like, C tier or B tier feels fair only because I really rate Evan Ferguson, and I'm pretty sure he had an injury for a while, and he's still very young. But to get a hat trick, I mean, Wood also got a hat trick, but I mean, how many starts does he have? 11 starts, 963 minutes. His XG's only 3.6, and he's gotten 6 goals, so he's overperforming it. I feel comfortable putting him in at low B to round out the list a bit. Next up is Rasmus Højlund. Højlund has had an interesting start to his life in the Premier League. He did well in the Champions League, and I know there will be United fans saying, "Oh, but he scored so many goals in the Champions League. You got to account for that." No, this is the Premier League, and even since then, he hasn't really seemed to click. He's only gotten 1 goal. He's underperforming his XG by 2.17 goals. His XG is 3.17. Started 12 matches, played 1,000 minutes, so only gotten a single goal. He's not really involved in the build-up play that much. He's not really the best dribbler. Man, Højlund's kind of crazy to have to rate now that I'm thinking about it. But I'm going to have to put him in at D tier, I think, for now. Right near Anthony Martial. Probably, yeah. Like, I mean, they have like a similar output. And I know he's 20, right? So I don't want to like say this or that, but if this was just like how like players have performed throughout the whole season, like I think he's performed better than like a D rating based on, it's not his fault they got knocked out of the Champions League. He was doing well in that competition, and he could have been doing even better. Who knows? Like maybe he was gonna tear it up in there, but he's not able to, and he's not translating that form to the Premier League, and that is a concern, because if you can't do in the Premier League, you're not going to be able to do in the Champions League to begin with. So, sorry, Højlund, but you got to go there. Next up is Christopher Nkunku. Nkunku started the season out with a long-term knee injury. It was from way before the start of the season, really. He's a player who, in many ways, you're going to have to rate. Well, I'm going to have to rate at least in a kind of perspective manner. How's he performed over the last few seasons? His time at Leipzig, he's kind of an anomaly to have to rate. He's only gotten a goal in 3 matches, but I think he's a quality player. And I think, like, I see him as a player who's at this, I mean, based on form, I'm going to put him in at B. I think his ceiling is like an S. He could be up here, maybe. But he'll probably be in this kind of caliber of player moving forward. But right now, similar to Gakpo, just stuff not starting. I am going to have to put him, I think, right around here maybe, because Joao Pedro's been terrific. He looks really promising as well. And in terms of form, he's been fantastic. He's outperformed even Gakpo, so I wouldn't even mind if maybe somebody had him there. But I do think Gakpo is the more complete player, and while I do think Nkunku is the more complete player as well, for Nkunku, it's a matter of getting fit and then staying healthy and being able to build upon that moving forward. And him being 26 already, he's not necessarily the youngest player. He's gonna have to kind of he's going to have to start to kind of pick up the pace moving forward a bit. So for now, I'll just put him in the middle of B. Next up is Fulham striker Raul Jimenez. Jimenez, I mean, 5 goals, 17 matches. I'm going to have to put him in at C tier, I think. Probably like right around there. I don't know. I don't really rate him. He hasn't been the same since that head injury. He's 32 now. He's going to be looking to retire soon enough. And you know, wish him the best in terms of his, you know, his recovery process from that injury, because I could imagine it was probably really rough. But I don't know. He's definitely like a C tier. Next up is Zeke Amdouni from Burnley. And honestly, 3 goals and assists, 19 matches. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to put him in probably like high D. He's more of a winger, but they play in a low block system, so he's oftentimes playing as like the secondary striker to Lyle Foster. Foster, I think, is the better of the two by a noticeable degree. So yeah. Next up is Brentford forward Brian Mbeumo. Mbeumo, I mean, Brentford is 16th right now on 19 points after 19 matches. They're not far from the relegation zone whatsoever. They're doing horrible without Potter. And if I'm not mistaken, Brian Mbeumo is also out, which is definitely not helping them, because yeah, he's out until mid-March with a ankle injury that started on December 6th. So tough look for them. 3 months is huge. 7 goals, 3 assists in 15 matches. I mean, Mbeumo's got to be like, I mean, S tier feels very generous. But and how many of these goals are penalties? 3. I mean, 4 goals, 3 assists in 15 matches, still pretty good. I think quality-wise, he's probably somewhere in between Jota and ISAK. But am I gonna put anyone in at S tier besides him? Probably not. So I feel like that's fair. I feel like that's pretty fair. Like low S, high A. He's had a fantastic season. He's injured now. Had he stayed fit, he would have had a even better season than he's already having. But yeah, I think Brian Mbeumo deserves his flowers. And I think that all in all, he's kind of at that point where I think as a forward, he's probably also going to maybe look to make his move alongside Tony from Brentford, because Brentford, I mean, if they can't keep this up, if they don't invest smart, and if they don't turn this around, they're going to be looking to possibly get even relegated this season, which would definitely mean that both Ivan Toney and Mbeumo would be looking to move forward. Hopefully for Brentford fans' sake, they don't get relegated, but it looks bleak. I'm not gonna front. Next up is Richarlison. Charleston's got 6 goals, 3 assists, 17 matches. Not too bad. I mean, I feel like I could put him probably in, I mean, quality-wise, I don't really rate him above there, maybe. Let's see where these goals are coming from. Goal against Bournemouth, goal against Everton, the brace against Newcastle, goal against Nottingham Forest, assist against Fulham, assist against Liverpool, assist in the goal against Sheffield, a goal against Fulham. I mean, I feel like having him here isn't crazy, but he's clearly not that guy. Like, he's not as composed as anyone up here, but he's also not, like, he's not a C tier player. He's at least a B tier player. I'm going to put him in just based on the fact that Nkunku hasn't really played. Like, he's going to have to be kind of lower, because Nkunku is definitely way better than both of these guys, Foster and Ferguson. But, like, will Nkunku, I mean, he could have a similar output to Richarlison once he's back, just based on his, continual injuries. That's not something they can easily just shake off as a player. Next up is Darwin Nunez. And Darwin Nunez, and before I do this, I'm sorry. I'm gonna, even though his goal contributions aren't that great, I'm putting him ahead of Callum Wilson. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have to. I just have to. I can't not have him lower. I'll put him in at B. I'll put him in at B. Because Callum Wilson, even though, he's been injured at periods and Gakpo was injured at periods, I think he's gotta, Wilson will start though, is the thing, sometimes one fit. And Gakpo, he'll start now, but he doesn't often start. But Nunez, Darwin. We got to really look at Darwin. 5 goals, 6 assists, 19 matches. I think he's A tier. I think he's slightly better than Gakpo right now. I would put him, honestly, probably like somewhere right there. I think he's not quite as good as Jota right now in terms of how, like, Darwin's impact is unbelievable. He's so rapid. He's so strong. He gets so direct. But I still feel like Jota has got a bit more to his game. I think Gakpo is gonna start showing. He's shown it in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup competitions quite a bit by scoring a lot in there and assisting a bit. But it seems that Gakpo is still kind of settling a bit more compared to Darwin. I think Darwin's doing fantastic this season compared to last. And I think a lot of people look at the misses, which, don't get me wrong, he has the misses. His expected goals, 8.64. He could be up there with 14 goal contributions right now in 19 matches, and we'll be like, wow, look how amazing he is. But sometimes it just doesn't go your way when you're a striker, and it hasn't for Darwin, but I still think he's an A-tier striker for sure. Gakpo also, if this was like a winger tier list, maybe he's a little higher. I really like Gakpo on the wings, specifically on the right wing as well. In the absence of Salah, Gakpo has really worked wonders there. But this is the Premier League tier list. So the final 2 players, Nicholas Jackson and Gabriel Jesus. We are going to look at Jackson first, playing for Chelsea, who's currently in 10th place. And honestly, he's at the African Cup of Nations, got 7 goals, 2 assists. I'm not going to say that he's necessarily, he hasn't had any penalties. So these are all, regular goals of his. Let's see what time frame they came in. He's suspended right now, but match against Sheffield, assist. He got a goal in the match against Sheffield, assist against Luton, assist against Brighton, hat trick against Tottenham in the win. That's a huge win for Chelsea, though, regardless. Then a goal against Brighton and a goal against Burnley. Subtracting the hat trick, a little less impressive. I do kind of rate Jackson, even though he has a howler in him every now and then. He's better than Lyle Foster, right? And Nkunku, you can make the case that for this season, based on form, he's even A tier for Chelsea. Because, where else are Chelsea going to get another, 7 goals from? If you take 7 goals from their total right now, they'd be at, 27 goals scored. That's like Fulham, Crystal Palace territory, and way further down the table, closer to a relegation scrap. So I'll leave him in at A. He's not a better player than Gakpo, Joao Pedro, Nkunku probably. But he's been on decent form. The hat trick does mask it a bit, but given the context of who it was against Tottenham away from home, that's huge. So yeah, I'll say low A tier, high B tier. Gakpo is the better player. Joao Pedro is the better player. Nkunku a better player for sure, but based on form, once again, just to state that. Next up is Gabriel Jesus, the final player on the tier list. And as always, make sure to comment down below and let me know who you would rank where. But Jesus last season was a fantastic player. Right now, he's got this knee injury that just popped up, and no one knows when he's going to come back, really. But he's got 3 goals and assists in 15 matches this season, and that's not fantastic. Is there a player in there? Is Jesus capable of turning this leaf for the second half of the season? I think he is capable of it, but will it happen? I don't know. He's just not. He gets a ton of touches. He's good at dropping back, but he hasn't had that kind of star power that I usually associated with him at City. So yeah, right now, just to balance the tier list, I'm going to put him in at B, like low B tier, because, I mean, 3 goals and assists is not it, man. I mean, you look at his goals, and he's underperforming his XG by almost 2 as well. And in an Arsenal side like this, I mean, with how many passes they do, with all that, you would expect him to get a bit more assists, but it's just not working out for him right now, and they're looking for another striker, possibly even Ivan Toney or someone like that. But, you know, that's my tier list, I think. I'm going to look at it real quick. And reminder, this is for how people play in the Premier League generally. So don't get upset that, you know, Højlund's in D tier, because Gakpo's in B tier, but, you know, it's not necessarily just how good the player is. It's how good are they? How good's their form? Where is their trajectory going from here on out? People towards the top are high flying. Even, you know, Mbeumo, despite his injury. People at A tier are basically on the precipice. They just need things to click for them just a bit more, and they'll be high flying. B tier needs some work. C tier kind of, you know, really just last chance for a lot of these players, it feels like. D tier, it feels like that chance is slipping. Højlund feels maybe unnecessarily harsh to have here, but not scoring that much. I mean, you know, say Martial does leave in January or in the summer, they're going to look to sign another forward. And if you're not scoring and bagging goals, then he might become the next Martial. But anyways, that's my tier list. I don't really have much else to add in terms of who I would rank where, but I feel pretty sound with this ranking. I think it's fair, and I think it'll create a lot of interesting discussion. Anyways, like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, comment down below with your thoughts on the tier list, who you would rank where, and any other possible transfer news, possible video ideas, anything you want to talk about football related, sound off in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'm Sideline Sedo. Peace.